So our grant deal's good to go then, right?
All right.
This is the attorney's
We'll start the
final.
October regular Kennedale EDC meeting. Roll call, please.
Place 1, Eubanks. Absent. Place 2, Marcel Terry. Also absent. Place 3, Kenneth Michaels.
Here.
Chair Mark Erie.
Here.
Place 4, Navarez.
Here.
Place 5, Verona.
Here.
Actually, I think you're place 7, Glover.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there anybody signed up to speak?
No, sir, there is not.
Okay, regular sessions, reports and announcements. Financial reports for the Economic Development Corporation.
Good evening. I'll make this brief, just as with the council last week. The main thing I want to point out is that these the statements for the 2 EDC-related funds are in a draft status. We have not closed the fiscal year, and we have not received all sales tax receipts related to the fiscal year, so this will remain in draft until that takes place. Regarding the current status, as you can see with revenue, we're 122% of budget. Our sales tax is at 98.9%, and that's with 2 months not reporting, so we're definitely going to exceed our budget in sales tax revenue. However, the EDC, the revenues and the operations expenditures, those are higher, and that's due to those land purchases and sales that we did throughout the year. So, of course, we were never really going to catch up on those. However, again, in draft status, you can see that we did end up better than we budgeted for, with the revenues over expenditures of almost $6,000 in the positive. It's overall a pretty good year so far. We do have more sales tax revenue, and we will have some more expenditures related to the hometown Christmas with the lighting, the new lighting that's gone up in the town center park. So those are 2 material items that are still pending. Are there any questions?
No questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to say, he's just in time. There's no need to sit down. Update, item 2, update from Mr. Craig Hughes relating to Town Center. Did you hit I don't hit the button?
Hello, here we go. Craig Hughes, Hughes Commercial Real Estate Development. Just got an email an hour ago saying we've got our last little tweak to our permit set for the Dollar General build-to-suit. Excuse me. So hopefully with any luck, so we had a curve thrown at us. The contractor that's built 250 of these for Dollar General doesn't sprinkle them. He said out of 250, maybe 2 of them were sprinkled. So we had our permit in, and after about 30 days, we got a comment back that it's not sprinkled. So we had to go back and redesign and put a sprinkler system in there for about $75,000 bust. But we got it redesigned, and hopefully we'll go back to the permit tomorrow. So that's it's been a long slog on this permitting, but we're plowing forward. So hopefully this is the week, and then we're ready to start construction just as immediately.
You have an update on the property, it'll be number 4 or number 3?
Number 3. So we were planning to do that in the 4th quarter, and still probably plan to do that. We've already we're in for permit. It's already been approved. It's been approved for like a year, so we need to refresh that. But I've got a new contractor on board. He's $100,000 cheaper at this point, so that's good. The Reliance Bank is fully on board, and We've got a tremendous pent-up demand. We only have one vacancy, and that's the Dickey's Barbecue. And we finally, I've told Dickey's corporate that we're just not going to entertain another, franchisee in there. This just, unfortunately, I think it's, a dying brand. We had another Dickey's in Grand Prairie, that same deal. We've had 3 different operators in there, and they just can't seem to make it. I don't know. There's just too much good homegrown barbecue for, unfortunately. So we do have a gentleman, Chef Mike Desereau or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He's very interested in backfilling that. And he's got a big backer, and he wants to establish himself kind of a gourmet food, I guess. It's kind of how you describe it. He's shown me a lot of his different plates that he does. And so he wants to get started in there. And then he's got thoughts of being the anchor in our new building, in the restaurant with the patio. A little nervous. He's worked for a lot of big chefs. This is his first time out on his own. He does have a retired medical doctor backer. But if we got a good anchor, that's a big restaurant that we're planning. It's 3,800 square feet plus 1,000 something patio. So it would be, I would love something like a brass tap, something that, kind of a sports bar, family restaurant that could utilize that patio. As soon as we get that, we're for sure going to break ground. Number 4, I'm a little surprised that we don't have quite as much interest on that. Building 3, we've got plenty of interest in that. But, we're looking kind of for a fast food, single tenant, like an ATT, a single standalone that needs the visibility off of Kennedale Parkway. We're just not getting near as much traction on that one.
Would you entertain like a small food truck court or something?
I think we could, yeah, absolutely. I think we could, that might be a stopgap measure. Put some gravel down or something to put some food court trucks in there. I would be interested in that.
Okay. That'll work.
I know they're the ones north of us on Kennedale that seems to always be a lot of traffic on that one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd entertain that for sure.
All right, I'll get with you next week, maybe the week after that, and we'll do some brainstorming. There's several food trucks. They're still interested in coming in. They're just having a problem having a location.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And we're in for the hometown Christmas, by the way. We'll do at least what we did last year and probably a little more. Okay. I'll go home now. No, just kidding. Any questions from?
Good evening, Mr. Hughes. One quick question. On building 3, you're waiting to break ground until you have an anchor tenant already committed?
Well, so our original thought was that we would be underway with Dollar General 3 months ago. So our plan was get Dollar General up and running, get it under construction, and then focus on building 3. That process, unfortunately, is drug out about 3 or 4 months longer than we had planned. If we get, I pretty much have my loan approved. We just have to go through all the paperwork. We're 100% leased other than Dickey's. So it's, we need product at least. So if we could get Dickey's underway, I'd say we'd probably start in January on building 3.
Okay.
60 days from now.
Thank you.
Any more questions? All right, Craig, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Item B, consent agenda, approve the August 17th Economic Development Corporation minutes. Does anybody see a change or any reasons not to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I will second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Item C, items for individual consideration, discussion, and/or action. Discuss and take action on a lease agreement with South Point Constructors.
This is the properties that I brought to you last month in reference to leasing the two properties to South Point Construction for storage of their supplies and construction equipment. One of the requests that I received from the board was to increase the monthly lease, and I was able to do that. We went from $1,000 a month to $1,500 a month per property. So I believe I was able to complete that and bring it back to you. Unfortunately, I did not get the agreement from South Point until this morning. So that's the reason why you didn't actually have the lease in your packet. I did bring up one for you, so you'll be able to review it. There are some corrections, and you will be able to see those corrections on the lease that's coming from our city attorney. As of right now, like I said, I talked to South Point earlier. They don't have any problems with the corrections to that. I am asking for approval for tonight to be able to move forward with that, with the corrections that the city attorney is requesting.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just have one question. It's a 2-year agreement, correct?
It's actually a 3-year.
3.
Then after the 3-year, it'll be month to month.
Month to month. But if, just say 2 years from now, we're going to do something with the property, we can evict them?
That's correct.
Okay.
We have a 30-day notice.
All right, cool. That's all I needed to know.
When we discussed this before, Mr. Eubanks pointed out the need for maybe a ladder in terms of rates kind of going up since we've extended the term from 1 to now 3 years. Is there any sort of increase in this from your one?
There's not. It's a flat 1,500.
Okay. You think that's their ceiling?
Not going to ask for an annual increase. I think the possibility's there.
I just feel like with the amount of land that's not vacant around here, that's prime.
Yes,
prime real
it
estate.
is. And then actually, they actually asked for the 2 acres that we have on Kennedale Parkway as well, where we were looking at putting the hotel. I did not have that available for them.
Yeah, I don't know if we want the park to have that much of their stuff on the parkway.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And we do have some interest for that property, and that will be brought to you next month.
All right. I don't think I have any objections unless the city attorney comes back with something.
Absolutely. Thank you.
On the, when the lease agreement ends, the 1,500, are you gonna do on the month to month? Are we gonna increase that too? We're gonna try to get that blessed too?
Yeah, absolutely. We can come back and renegotiate the lease agreement.
Okay.
So looking in paragraph 2, it feels like they're giving us 30 days notice. I don't see that going the other way. I don't think so. This is a black and white copy. But just under term, I think we just want to look at that carefully and make sure the city attorney, under term, paragraph 2 on the first page. It says they can end the lease with a written notice 30 days prior to expiration. It doesn't say that we can return the same.
So it needs to be either party.
Okay. But somewhere in here, there's the paragraph that says we can evict them with 30 days notice at any time? Okay. Sorry, that just caught my eye, so I wanted to clarify that. Oh, one thing we did talk about too, sorry, it's been 2 months since we talked about this. If, yeah, okay, environmental. Essentially, if they spill something, they have to clean it up. Okay. Drop in the bucket now, but okay. Really just if they dump a oil pan out there or something like that, and dump 50 oil, drum of oil, and I don't want to be in with that.
And the state's harsher than we are on that.
Equipment.
For that, just like I said, if there's any hazardous material or anything like that, that's not acceptable. However, if there's oil or from vehicles or things like that, if there's any of that on the property, they have to clean it up. But hazardous material is not accepted there on either one of the properties.
Looks like you got to go ahead and negotiate with them.
If we can get a vote on it. Or a motion.
Yep. Marcel, fill Marcel in real quick.
Welcome. The what? Oh, wow. Okay. Well, it looks like you're okay, so. They may have. We started the meeting at 6:01. We thought that 1 minute was enough for you.
Well, right now,
But
we're
the accident-
discussing approving, giving the city manager permission to negotiate with South Point Constructors on leasing out 2 pieces of property.
That's what we brought to you last month. We had the increase in the lease from 1,000 to 1,500. Some of the question was talking about, in a sense, if there's any material waste, whose responsibility to clean it up, and which will be South Point. No hazardous material is allowed to be on the property. But if there's any liquids or any contamination of it, it's the responsibility of South Point to clean it. Yes, that's correct. And then it is a 3-year term with additional month by month.
All right. We will need a motion to approve the city manager to negotiate with South Point Constructors.
Yeah, I need a motion for approval to move forward and with the city attorney's recommendations for the lease itself. So what you see on there is all I need is approval for the lease agreement with modifications from the city attorney.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the lease agreement with South Point Constructors pending our city attorney's approval of the contract.
I'll second.
Do we have a second?
Okay.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Item 2, discuss and take action as required to sell the property located 600 West Kennedale Parkway.
Mr. Pennington, you mind coming up? As you're aware, last month also, I brought a conditional offer for the property at 600 West Kennedale Parkway. And I asked Mr. Pennington, obviously, he's the person that made the offer for this property. With that, I wanted him to come in and share his vision of what that property can do and what he believes that he can create from that property. And I think it's important for us, one, to understand what his vision is and what the city can get out of that. One of the reasons why I want him to come in and share it is the concept of 380 agreement, or in regards to the value of the property. Which direction do we want to go? Do we want to do it like a 380 agreement? Do we want to have a discounted rate for the land? And we can do either way, or in some cases, we may be able to do both. But more importantly, at this point, I like to see and hear your vision for the property. Some of the things that we've had in the past is the property is too narrow, or there's not enough room to build. We've had all kinds of excuses, the reason why they can't build on this property. And Mr. Pennington has a plan, and he believes he can fulfill that vision. And if you don't mind sharing that with the board itself.
I have to say, though, the most distressing thing about this evening is that South Point is going to be there for 3 more years. I thought they were like a year and a half out, but I guess not, because that is rearranged life down where I live anyway. Chairman and members, we looked at this and actually have looked at it for quite a while and had a meeting or two here. It's a tough piece of property. It looks as though, if you look quickly at the survey, it's got the right-of-way for Bowman Springs has to be taken out of it, which the survey was done prior to that happening. So you end up with about 45 or 50 feet of usable space, if north-south is the right way to say it, front to back. The length of it is, plenty long to accommodate. So what we've been looking into is the uses, basically, of long, skinny buildings. And the one that comes the closest, I think, which would also be, I think, a real asset to Kennedale, is a tunnel car wash. We've joined the Texas Association and started to collect models of what can go there. It's not their typical by any stretch, because if you have the 2 bays of the vacuum and then a lane to get around to the tunnel, it's more space than we have. So it would be a totally novel way of laying it out, where it faced Bowman Springs. Typically, they don't want that. They want it to be tunneled perpendicular to the access. But I think we can get around that. But our vision there, and particularly since there's just so much traffic on Kennedale Parkway, would be a couple, at least one other auto use. So we've talked to Take 5, and they've got a 30, 40, and 50-foot footprint that they use. And the 30, and depending on how you laid it out, and the 40 footprint would work there. Access is going to be exclusively off of Bowman Springs. And from setbacks and so on, I think we have to move about halfway down in the east-west direction to get the main entrance. And then if there is space, depending on how parking and everything else lays out, if there's space, we see the farthest end being, maybe office or professional space of some sort. Both of those uses are high retail gross. The ZIPS model is, their best stores do about $2.5 million a year. There's data that'll blow your mind how many people go through those tunnel washes. The one over on Bowen, they do between 18, on a great day, they do over 1,800 cars goes through that thing. And most of the money is on the monthly enrollment. Just so few people pay 8, 9, 10, whatever it is, to use it. So what we're hoping to get is at least some nod that these uses make sense for the city, first off. And if they do, I think they are high sales tax generators. And obviously with EDC, you're not particularly interested in non-revenue generating uses of EDC land. So we're, guided by that. And I think there could be one or two others that will fit in that. We probably would need some waiver, some help on setbacks in order to get, for instance, in the case of the parking or in the vacuum bays, getting them out close to Bowman Springs, closer than would typically be the setback there. I assume that we've had REDS for I think 13 years. That was purchased from the EDC, and it's gone through some iterations, but it's hard to kill. So we are still there doing events, and stakeholder in Kennedale, and would really like to get an opportunity to build on this tract. And more than likely, we would be owner operators. We would buy the franchises and operate everything that would be on that corner. I think there's, excuse me, around a couple acres. One of the major expenses is it will require a huge retaining wall up against the property owner to the south, I guess that is. So there's easier deals to do, but it seems like one is in our backyard. I would say too, Clint is my construction manager, and we were trying to find real estate all over, this end of the county in Johnson County, and it just occurred that we really need to be looking in our backyard. So we are pursuing a couple tracts of land for residential development here again. So hopefully that also comes to fruition here in 2025. I answer any questions anyone has. I know it's not very professional or formal, but.
Mr. Penny, you were talking about REDS, but you've done other developments in the area as well. Can you tell us a little bit about your other one? We did Brookstone, I don't even know how many years ago it is now. That was a couple hundred lots. We also, our office is over off of Gilman. So we have there a church and a gym at the moment that's probably changing, and space for one other use, although that hasn't been identified. We've tried to do a couple other things. One seemed to be close, but didn't muster. But the stake with REDS is, it truly is a labor of love. I mean, it should not. Let's see, what's the right way to say that? There are higher and better uses for that property, but it's it's become a bit of a landmark.
interestingly enough, we still get calls. It hasn't been a restaurant in about 7 or 8 years. And we get calls on Friday to see who the band is. And, you know, that's 7 years ago, six years ago. But a lot of people, like Kennedale, you know, they were good customers. They were loyal. But this use is much more manageable as an event center.
You also did the development behind you, right? The track homes, R3s, right next to City Hall. Yep. And how long have you been working with Kennedale now? About 20 years?
I would say it's
Almost
that,
the beginning, right? 2005, around there?
something like that.
Yeah. The reason why I bring that up, Mr. Chairman and board members, is, you know, Mr. Pennington, I've known him for a long time. He's one of those developers that are local, that you just really want to work with. And he always lives up to what he says he's going to build. So he's not going to say he's going to build a car wash and not build a car wash. He will make sure that he will follow through with that. His development's always been amazing. If you ask any developer, they know who he is, and he's really well known in the community. He's always looked out for Kennedales where people might come in and buy homes and do their thing and leave. Mr. Pennington does come back for more and more and more. Now, as far as this property goes, I mean, me personally, it's the oldest one we have on the books, one of the very first properties EDC bought. It's the most difficult land to develop in this area. And me personally, I would give it away if anybody wanted to develop something that would bring a tax base here. I also think that Mr. Pennington would be crucial in not only developing that strip next behind this, going all the way down to the junior high and the private school, but also right around his office on the frontage road by Sabre. That's where his office is. So it's one of those things that if you have doubts about a developer, I'm putting my name on this. Mr. Pennington is one of the best developers around, and we should be happy that he wants to do business in Kennedale. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I got a question. Has there been any other discussion on other types of businesses on that plot other than the car wash and the Take 5?
I mean, one of the issues, I mean, we did talk to a coffee, that we would be a landlord there. So if we would be, you know, dedicating maybe 4 25-foot wide rental spaces. But, you know, and I was actually encouraged to hear that the town center is as full as it is. That's great news. I mean, obviously you don't want to, you know, take business from an existing business in Kennedale and move it down the street, you know, half a mile. So the ones that we're talking to, the truth is, it is just so narrow. There's just, by the time you put the setbacks on it, there's only 45 feet that's buildable. And there are very few things, even the office, I mean, the ideal situation for, you know, like a medical office or anything like that, but the depth won't allow it. So to answer your question, I don't think we're nearly finished trying to find something, but I will tell you we have a land planner that's, you know, looking at it, and his success is, you know, he's struggled with it because of that depth, and that's part of it. And you can't get access to Business 287, you know, because of the too close to Bowman Springs. So it's going to have it could have 2 points of access, or an access and egress. The car wash may necessitate that just because of traffic flow. They can't cross each other. So I do think that is the highest and best there, and some small, you know, retail that, like, you know, coffee. But it won't fit the footprint of a major franchise. You know, we tried to pursue that for, you know, like the Dutch Brothers and those kinds of things, and you know, we were shut down pretty quick. And you know, the truth is, we haven't turned over every rock because we haven't had control of it, or don't even know, you know, what's viable. It's questions of, you know, what would the rent be, how much, you know, what would you be willing to pay in a franchise, without getting at least some direction. We're not in the best position to, go out and scour, but we will. And, I think that piece, and I keep coming back to the car wash because the gross revenue is through the roof. Now, granted, it would probably not be the Bowman Springs model, but we know what Zips at Little Road does, and it's also in excess of $1.5 million, which is, that's a lot of cars.
So if you just say you brought in a Zips car wash, what would the value of the building be itself? Do you have a rough number of the property value?
We're finding it's between 2 and 3 million. And it has a lot to do, like the one at Bowen, for instance, is double that. But, it has a detail side to it as well. So it occupies all 2 acres that's there and has access, in multiple ways going through Bobby V's and other places. But in this case, I would estimate it would be in excess of 2 million for sure. And that's just the car wash part. The others, it's, as I'm kind of preaching to the choir here with you, the construction costs since COVID have every bit of doubled. We have a project that just got skewered today in which the on the pipe, just the pipe itself, was $8 a foot, and it's $24 a foot today. That's just in 3.5 years, just since COVID. And so I know, it's hard to build anything today, regardless of the square footage. Even if it's a 3,000 square foot house, you can't build it for $500,000. That's starter houses are 350, 400 grand now. Didn't think I'd ever say that.
Kind of food for thought, even for the property itself. The depth of this property is roughly 150 feet, correct?
That's before the right-of-way for Bowman Springs taking out of occurrence. The first thing that needs to happen is it needs to get a current survey, because the survey that we're operating from, is pencil lines on top of an existing, I don't know when it was, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. So with that, we've just superimposed, where those lines hit, and that takes it to about a 45-foot pad.
So you have a setback that's on the back of the property. So a build to line, in other words. On the front side, on the Bowman Springs side, there's a right-of-way. And that's why he's coming up with this 45, 50 foot that he can actually utilize or put some type of value to it. That's the reason why he's indicating it's 50 feet that he has to play with. Because at the back side, you got the build to line. Then the front side, you got the Bowman Springs right-of-way that you can't build on either. So I just want to kind of give a picture, a reason why it's difficult to come in and build anything there. As it moves away from, say, the Kennedale Parkway, he cannot have an entry from the Kennedale Parkway. It's going to have to come from Bowman Springs. So the idea is, one, how do you get the visibility from Kennedale Parkway for this business? So that's some of the challenges that I've been hearing, just showing the property to other developers and retail builders. So I just want to throw that in. The build to line in Bowman Springs right away is our biggest challenge. Hopefully we can come in, just like you was indicating, we can come in and do a survey, and we may be able to gain a little bit more square footage out of it, but it's still, even with that said, it's going to be very limited. If you go out and have a visual look at it, you'll see the complications of trying to build anything on it.
I caution, only mentioned it several times about the survey, because if you look at it quickly, it looks like, there's plenty of depth. It's 165 feet or something like that. And, that would appear as though that's plenty of depth. But 50 of that is off the front. And then you take the typical setbacks that take place on every property, and that gets you down to that 45-ish.
Which I'll follow up, which is why it's been so difficult to on there. We've had one previous developer interested before, conditional that he got a right-of-way off of the parkway, which he eventually did the day after his contract was up. So it took 2 years to even get approval from the state to get that right-of-way. But he was going to do tiny homes, to put it in perspective, because that's pretty much the only thing you could put there. It's just difficult. Even if he gets an exception to the setbacks, it's still just a difficult property to develop. And again, one of the oldest properties that we own as an EDC. For me, I know Mr. Hall was talking about either a reduction in price of the property or agreement. For me, whatever gets it off our books, really. We just need to make use of that property so we can get other developments right behind it, is how I look at it.
We've had that property marketed since Bowman Springs opened up.
Yep.
When was that? How many years ago? It's, I can keep it on.
So the address is listed as on Kennedale Parkway, but I think it's really more on Bowman Springs. Is that accurate?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
The address is listed as 600 West Kennedale Parkway, but it sounds like it's really more on Bowman Springs than the Parkway. Not that it's a reason not to do or go forward, but do you see a problem with traffic with people trying to turn left to come? If I'm thinking about it right, they'd be coming left out of there to get back to the Parkway, but turn left on Bowman. Is that going to create a problem there, that intersection that's already busy?
I don't think so. As long as the entry is coming off of Bowman Springs, I think that's very accessible.
Yeah.
On
We
Bowman
do have to
Springs.
push it, to your point, though, I think, the entry has to push back off of the parkway, maybe almost halfway for stacking, because with the light, I mean, regardless of which direction you're going, it's entirely possible that there'd be some stacking taking place. So, I think it makes sense from a land planning standpoint to get that entrance about halfway to the east. I wish the parkway was north and south. It'd be easier, but whatever that direction is over there.
Then I think my second, it's more of an observation, or personal observation than anything else is, you mentioned Take 5, and I think you mentioned Car Wash Masters on Bowen in 20, is that right?
The one on Bowen is not, it's a, what is the name of that? It's not Zips. And it wouldn't necessarily be Zips that we would, get a franchise for either. But I just mentioned, I just polled the guy, that manages it and said, seriously, how many cars go through this thing? And I couldn't believe it. And to be, just from observation, Zips over here on Little doesn't do as much business as the one on Bowen. And this one, just because it's, there's plenty of traffic, but none of them will have the traffic that Bowen and 20 has. I mean, you see it there. I mean, it's just absolutely packed on the weekend. But we do think, that its revenue will still be over $1.5 million. And, the truth is that's considerably more than Red's revenue. So from a tax standpoint, Red's is 20,000 square feet on 2 acres, and its revenue will be probably half of what the car wash is, just the car wash.
My personal suggestion would be to go with the brand that's on Bowen and 20. I've done all three of the ones you've mentioned. I recently did the Take 5 off of Sublet. Paid for the most expensive one they had, was not impressed. Just my 2 cents. So if you want to have more revenue, stick with Zips or I think it's Car Wash Masters. It's C on the one on Bowen and 20, but maybe the one at Take 5 on Sublet just needs a little tuning. But I think they're so compressed in there in that tunnel that they just don't have the space, because you mentioned they have different footprints. I don't think they have the space to do what they need to do to have a better wash, but I'll let you sort that out.
There's a lot of research to do. I mean, I don't want to, I want to be transparent about it. We have to roll up our sleeves, when we know that it's viable, and make sure the numbers all, work.
Mr. Pennington, if we were able to come to an agreement for this property, What do you think the timeline is to actually build a product and put it on there, operating?
I think you have to define the milestone. It would take minimally, and most often whenever I give this, then Clint will add another 5 months to it. But I would say that it'll take the better part of a year to put it in place. I think we, within 6 months, could have identified the franchise, got the land planning done, got the approvals, at the city level permits and things. And so it would take every bit of 18 months before it started to generate any revenue.
To actually see a product, 18 months.
First, if we're focused on the car wash, I think the first car couldn't go through in less than 18 months. That's a different way of saying it.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I mean, feel free. I mean, where.
Just
The
one more.
office-
Are you asking for a conditional contract, meaning, you'll buy the property condition on if you get the setback exception or something weird like that? Or are you just wanting to move forward with purchasing the property?
No, I don't think that's necessary. It could be something as informal as, a letter of agreement that says, I agree to do this, this, and this, and these are the milestones that I make. If I don't make those milestones, the money that we'll spend, will be in the design, the planning, the surveying, the soils analysis, all that front end stuff. And, for several months, I don't think it's important that we have an ironclad contract. We're not going to look for financing until, we have something to show a bank. So, if I had to answer that, I would say, within maybe 3 months, we would want to be under a contract that we could all agree on. And then with the commitment that, the first car would run through by X number of months after that. And or, if it's the take 5, that I think would be in the same category. I honestly don't know as much about the uses that would make sense further to the east. The further up the hill you go, there's more elevation change, which is, doesn't make it any easier. And, access to it, you really have to make it flow, for those retail uses out at the other end. But when you get up there, it could be that's, like I say, medical office or some low impact. And in that case, for the EDC, I mean, you would be looking at property value, not sales tax.
Would you have your ideal location for the car wash? Would it be closer to Kennedale Parkway or further back on the property going east?
I think it has to be the first thing off of Kennedale Parkway, which it may be, 75 feet or 100 feet back, just in order to get circulation around it. So they have to come in, and make the full loop. There's just, I've looked at enough of the plans, there's just no way to do it. Otherwise, it's a circus. Everybody's crossing each other. So within reason, the further, as close to Kennedale Parkway as you can get for visibility. And, I have to be sensitive too to the fact that this Kennedale Parkway traffic will change dramatically when all that construction ends, because it's, as you know better than anybody, I mean, it's a bear. I mean, these people have come up with new ways that are no longer, creative to avoid that down here. So everybody's on Kennedale Parkway now. 8 o'clock in the morning, it's 2 miles long. But that will change. So, it has to be a destination. That's why I think it has to be a franchise, so that, we can tag the name identification. That's where the kind of the take 5 comes in too. I mean, anybody can do the oil change, but if you have something recognizable, then I think they'll go down Bowman Springs to get it done.
Thank you for coming out
You bet.
tonight and just sharing your vision with us.
Any questions? Just, where we are. Thank you for your consideration of your time.
Thank you, sir.
So Daryl, this is an action item. Are you looking for action from us?
Not necessarily. Again, the objective is for Mr. Pennington to come in and share his thoughts, his vision of what he believes can take place at that corner. And I think it's something we truly need to take in consideration. Very importantly for Mr. Pennington's, one, his past record of what he's done, not only in the city of Kennedale, but what he's doing outside the city of Kennedale. He's a developer, and he's done an outstanding job even outside with other entities. You got a huge development that's going on in Johnson County.
Yep. You just finished two.
We have a great project at the intersection of Chisholm Parkway and 67,
Yep.
next to the ballpark, the minor league baseball team. So we have the 92 acres that's next to that. That's multifamily, retail, hotel, medical. But that's what you can do on 92 acres of flat hayfield versus.
In the middle of nowhere, too.
All I want to do, but I stepped back up here, is to say we're going to excuse ourselves so that you could talk freely. But thank you again.
Absolutely, thank you. I'm not necessarily looking for an action tonight. Like I said, I just wanted you to come in and share his vision. That's something we haven't had in the past that I'm aware of. Is one, just having someone coming in and have the integrity and the experience and the track record that Mr. Pennington has. And I think it's important to be able to showcase that. And once again, he has businesses here. His business is here. And he's developed here. If you leave here, you go across the street from Corey Edwards, he built that neighborhood. And he truly wants to continue to build here. And I have no reason not to believe the man. He's done everything he has indicated. But I would have, if there's an action to take place, I would like for it to continue to be able to negotiate with Mr. Pennington with his project. And come up with some type of 380 agreement, either by land or a tax incentive. At this point, I think it's more advantageous to go with a property value. I think it's more beneficial for the city to be able to do that. And as he builds, we have the tax revenue from the time he builds to whenever. I think there's more value in that concept. And I think also we can have that agreement and he can bring his plan to us prior to approval. And that's what the 380 agreement will be able to do for us. At that point, we can, honestly accept it or not.
So just no action required right now, honestly. All right. Item 3, discuss and take action on proposed contract for EDC consultation services with CP2 Consultants.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Taking a while, but I think it's a good thing for you to hear.
It was very good for us to hear. So, Mr. Chairman and members, thank you for having us tonight. My name is Christy Forte, and this is Chelsea Petty, and we are CP2 Consultants. We have worked together for about 18 years. The first 5 of those were managing the largest upstream oil and gas exhibitions in the world. Everything from marketing, fundraising, education, logistics. And then we took those skill sets to luxury ranch real estate marketing, as well as marketing for cities and other nonprofits, which led to economic development. And so for the last decade, we have focused primarily on economic development and marketing and events. And during that time, have contracted extensively with Jack Thompson of Arossi Development, who's done work with Kennedale before. So when we're not doing those things, we are both wives and moms and active members and volunteers in our churches and schools and communities. So that is just a little bit about us. And I'm going to turn it over to Chelsea, who's going to talk in a little bit more detail about how we think we could partner with Kennedale.
to be here with y'all tonight. Thank you for having us. Kennedale has done such a wonderful job of creating a small town, there we go, small town sense of place that feels like home. And increased development shouldn't threaten that, doesn't have to threaten that. We would look at keeping it small and appropriate. Nobody over here is looking to be Dallas. But as you well know, growth is what keeps the lights on and the streets fixed and your favorite takeout around the corner and the best Christmas event around, I hear, as well as property taxes low. So we would be looking to create appropriate growth that creates more ways for people to and keep the money in the city while enhancing the small town sense of place that y'all have done so much to foster. We know that people who live in Kennedale are often taking their shopping dollars and their entertainment dollars to Mansfield and Arlington and Fort Worth. So we would look at how to revitalize current developments that you have with needed retailers. That might look like courting some of the local restaurant chains that have taken new concepts and proven them in other cities like Kennedale, but who are looking to expand. And looking at how we can extend the fun and the spending of families who are enjoying all the amenities that y'all have, but also helping those who are coming in from out of town for your events, helping them spend more time and more money here in Kennedale. We've done a lot of talk tonight already about incentives and real estate and demographics, and you know with us that the point of all of that, these are just tools to further increase the quality of life of residents here in Kennedale. And so that looks like increasing families' expendable income, right? So that your kids can go to dance lessons and they can go on family vacations, live near a great elementary school with high ratings, and mom and dad don't have to drive 45 minutes each way for a good job. And often looks in communities like this, like making sure there are resources nearby as your grandparents age and need more care so that you can keep them near and get all the care they need. And then make sure that our kids who are graduating know that they don't have to move away in order to find opportunity and build a great life. So all the things we're going to talk about in the next few slides are just the tools of how we want to help take Kennedale to the next level. I haven't quite found the right spot for this. So you know that in a city of more than 10,000 residents, you just need a lot of bandwidth to accomplish your goals. So we want to take the work that y'all have done and have been doing and run hard to the next level, to be aggressive in continuing to build the right environment in the city that's attractive to appropriate growth and development. Use the relationships that we've built to market Kennedale's opportunities to the real estate and development community, and build a thriving small business culture that is close-knit, supportive, and eager to serve their community. So there are a lot of bullets here, and these list the different services that we provide to different clients. And this is a lot of different services to provide. Your strategic plan will guide our priorities. So that's where we would start. But looking at this list, we have the time and the tools to research and know what opportunities are best suited specifically for your community that can be successful here, and then the contacts to run after them and market to them. The packet I passed out is an example. It's not our packet, but it looks a whole lot like packets that we create as we're going out to court specific retailers and developers. We often refer to it as just eye candy, so that we're not just calling and saying, hey, I've got this many square feet on this much land and these are my incentives, but we're presenting to them a complete package. And often, as he was saying, depending on what you're looking to develop, what it looks like now is not what it could look like. And so we work on pieces like this to help retailers and developers imagine and see into the future of what it could look like. So that's just an example, again, not our work, but ours looks much like that. So as far as who we're going to market to, that includes who you would think, retailers, sometimes residential developers and employers, And we want to look at what is best suited not just to serve Kennedale residents, but those around you. We want to help you continue to bring in people from Fort Worth and Arlington and Mansfield to spend their money here. We at heart are dot connectors, and all the things that we've done over the last 18 years together, that's what we do. So much of our time is spent making connections with people and then following up and following up and following up so that we make sure that Kennedale is noticed, respected, and attractive. And then after we get there, that we don't fall off the short list when there's a stall on their end, because we don't want to miss the new development or the rail stop. We want to grab the industry expansion. Y'all probably already know this, but 80% of new jobs are created by existing businesses in most communities. So while we want to run hard after the right new development and the right new commercial, we want to work closely with existing businesses to ensure their continued and increased success. There is so much overlap here between economic development and good chamber work. Part of economic development is business retention. That's the focus of chamber work. And a strong chamber helps attract new business as well. I'm sure y'all are aware of how often retailers or developers call in to a chamber or to current business owners, employers in the city asking, hey, what's your experience? How is it working with the city? What's the culture like there? What are the amenities like there? And so economic development and the chamber work just go hand in hand in creating the kind of community that's not only successful here, but is an evangelist for your city. So let's talk for a minute about the chamber. So Kennedale is not the only chamber that's struggling to be seen as relevant post-COVID. It's a pretty common problem. We want to innovate and design a product that is attractive and worth the money for businesses who don't think the chamber is relevant to them. You have a lot of industrial in Kennedale, and that's wonderful. We want to find a product that moves the needle specifically for their industry. That might look like HR roundtables that are specific to industrial. That might look like other thought leaders that we can bring in. Or workforce training or succession planning. The first thing we would do is go and meet with them to drill down to their pain points, figure out what they are, how to design a product that's important to them, and not just get them involved as members, but in leadership. Small businesses, regardless of their industry, largely share the same sticking points, right? They need help knowing how to get and retain customers, help with strategic vision, financial management, new technologies. So, and because there are a wealth of experts out there in these disciplines, a key part of our product would be providing educational opportunities that directly impact the bottom line of our businesses. The bottom line is relevant to everybody, right? So if we can provide that kind of product, that's relevant to all the businesses in the community. Obviously, we would need to create exciting ways for members to network with each other and not just support each other, but be connected with the resources, not just at the city level, but at the county, state, and federal level. There is so much funding behind so many programs for small businesses at these other levels, but there's so much that business owners often don't know where to go find them, and if they do, which ones are relevant to them. So that's a big part of good chamber work, is distilling down for business owners what resources out there are available to them and would be useful for them. I have a friend in Round Rock, Catherine Alvarado. She has a public-private partnership that is a work of the chamber, the city, and private investors that plays a critical role in funding their chamber's economic development vision. In the last 10 years, that partnership has produced over $10 billion in economic output. That includes jobs, financial relief for existing companies, and attraction of new business. Now, I know Round Rock is 12 times the size of Kennedale, but these numbers, these big numbers, prove that there is power and potential behind a chamber that is intentional and forward-thinking. It just shows that there's lots of opportunity out there to do this well. That first bullet, relevant product, along with strong internal leadership from ambassadors, those two are going to drive the rest of those bullets. We know that this is a bit of an emergency situation for your chamber, and so would like to start working out the details of those first two items, the relevant product and a ready leadership, here in this last quarter of 2024, pushing toward a big launch in January. We do not expect that you would see a totally different chamber overnight, but we do believe that you'll see the first signs of results quickly and tangibly. We are really excited about the opportunities that present themselves here in Kennedale with the chamber. And I have one more slide before Christy comes back up. These are just a few of the professional organizations that we are involved in. It's part of how we stay up to date on trends affecting the practice, like AI, the new Ready Sites program, and also what opportunities that I mentioned earlier that are available from county, state, and federal levels. Those change all the time, and it's a lot to stay on top of. So we learn a lot of that here. And then, of course, our networking with these first two on top, the Real Estate Council of Fort Worth and Crew Fort Worth, are obviously local. They have lots of events, so we spend a lot of our time there among movers and shakers in Tarrant County. And real estate brokers, developers, financiers, government officials. The TEDC is obviously a state-level program. We do a lot of education there specific to economic development. And then ICSC, which y'all are probably familiar with. That's the Council of Shopping Centers. And so those events that we're involved in, you show up where there are hundreds of site selectors that you've gotten to pre-choose beforehand who you want to talk to and get pre-screened from and have one-on-ones about your opportunities in your city. So those are really exciting opportunities. And we spend a lot of time at these, which makes us the contacts that we need to be able to be proactive and aggressive for our clients. That is all for me. I'm going to hand it back over to Christy.
I just want to wrap up by saying that in addition to the skills and experience that we think we can bring to helping Kennedale move forward in the direction you want to go, we also are known by our clients as people of integrity and work ethic. And so what we say we are going to do, we will deliver, and we want that to reflect on Kennedale as well, that Kennedale is known as a town and a board that brings forward a good product and delivers when they say on what they say they'll do. So we have already met with Daryl and a few of your board members. We feel like we're a good fit. We had a very good long discussion on the ways that we think we could help Kennedale, that we've given you an overview of here. And that's all we have for you, but we'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to first start off by saying that I spoke to Joe Taylor yesterday, who's the president of our Chamber of Commerce, and he regrets that he can't be here tonight. He had a different prior engagement, but we discussed in detail something that was originally his idea, something that he's been loudly crying for the last couple of years, which was to have an equal partnership with EDC, getting somebody to be an intermediary and somebody just take charge of it, because a lot of us are volunteers in what we do and have our own businesses. I also did run into Jack Thompson in Houston a couple of weeks ago and managed to ask him a couple questions. These ladies used to work for him, and so he had nothing but praise about these ladies. Now, putting all that aside, I did meet with Mr. Hull and Chelsea and Christy a couple times. And the second time, Mr. Hull and I pretty much grilled them for an hour and a half about expectations and direction. For me, I think that we need a different, fresh eyes on the next generation of leaders coming for the Chamber and EDC. To put it bluntly, we need Gen X and millennials, and that's, all you guys who are about to retire, to put it nicely. And the reason why is because technology is getting there socially, things like social media and things like that. These are ideas of our generation, and we better utilize it than your generation does. With that being said, I also wanted to seek out a firm that wasn't too large. I didn't want to talk to the president and CEOs, but then we get some other worker that might be there for 6 months, and then we get some other worker because he moved on to another project. I wanted a small firm that would be dedicated to both the chamber and EDC. Now, in our discussions with these two ladies, I find that they have the knowledge, they have the will, they have the connections, which I think are very important, and they have the social skills to be the intermediary or be a face for Kennedale. I do think they also have great ideas on how we could fix the chamber, and priority-wise, I think that is the priority, at least for the next year. Things that we would need as an EDC, it's just gonna take a couple of years. It'd be 3 years before, if they planted something in January, it'd probably be 3 years before that would fruit. But on the shorthand, their investment into the chamber would bring a lot of business and leaderships that we need for a small business community on the short end. Like I said, we interviewed them very extensively. I think they do have the knowledge to move forward the city into this next decade, or at least the next generation of economics, especially as we grow our local economy here finally. And that's just my kind of 2 cents about the situation.
For some of those that weren't part of that meeting, is there a way that you can outline some of the things that were discussed in that meeting as far as moving forward in the vision in a whole?
Yeah, and some of that was discussed by Chelsea just a minute ago. Excuse me. These allergies this month is really killing me. Primarily, we did the last time talk about what we can do with the chamber. I think Daryl and I's stance on that is they are on the cusp of losing, and that's the emergency button. For example, we would split the cost with the chamber. I would ask the board to relay that cost for a little bit until they can help us rebuild the chamber. I think the chamber and EDC, although they're two separate entities, their ideas are aligned. And we spoke extensively on how we can revitalize the chamber, bring value to the members on what we can do. And this should spark other things and ideas. Now, the idea of a HR roundtable for the industrial district, I think that's brilliant. As somebody who has great ideas all the time, that's something I would never think of. And I think these are the fresh ideas that we need to bring in because of their experience. And I'll point to the board. That's exactly the experience I'm talking about right there, and the connections that we need. So we just need some fresh pair of eyes out there. We need somebody who is knowledgeable in the situation on both the EDC and the chamber and the aspects of how that grows in a city planning aspect. And just the social skills to make sure that we can have those interactions with these big people out there in such a small pond that we have. But the main focus we had last time, I think we spent an hour and a half talking about how we can rebuild the chamber. And in that discussion and Chelsea's ideas and Christie's ideas, I could see where that would be beneficial for EDC in the future as well. It kind of goes hand in hand.
The chamber is a tool for the EDC. Obviously, the EDC is what goes out and comes to us. And it's just like they described, the chamber is that contact. They have the contacts not only for what they're indicating, but other chambers as well. We should work hand in hand with our chamber. It's a product of a partnership and just communications by itself. And they have that experience to bring to us and honestly just educate us on what we're missing. And we've been missing that. We've been missing it since for a very long time. And we need that. We need the experience and the knowledge. I met with the board of directors of the chamber today. They're on board with the same concept of what we're trying to accomplish, what we believe they can come in and offer to the EDC and to the chamber as a whole. They're a byproduct of us, and we should work hand in hand. The financing side or the funding for their services to the chamber or to the EDC is something that the EDC can and should be able to come in and fund. Because it is, we work hand in hand, and we haven't been able to do that in the past. And the board understands the value in what we're trying to accomplish.
I think it's important also to understand that with boards, like for example, this board, you have 3 council member here. If we don't win our election, you have a changeover. We've had a lot of changeover in leaderships, and we're about to have a changeover in leadership in the chamber. It's good to have a focal point and a long-term relationship with somebody that has all the ideas, and knows the history and knows the way forward. And that way there's that connection between the next generation of leaders for our city, or the ones, that kind of move around. We've been needing this for a long time. We tried this once before with Jack. Of course, he went on to bigger, better things. He's the city manager of Burleson now. And so this is something that I think we've been lacking, but we didn't necessarily need this a few years ago. But we're in the cuff of our developments. I mean, you just had 2 great developers here tonight discussing it. So I think it's time to bang on this so we can move forward. The local economy, building a local economy is so important. It's been one of the loudest arguments and frustrations around here. How do we build a local economy? And so I think we're just at that perfect point or perfect storm to where this is necessary. That could be just one more, quill in our hat, or one more weapon in our arsenal to get out there and really build this.
I sort of disagree with you about we didn't need them. We've always needed somebody. But there was a time after Jack, which I was here when Jack was Thompson Associates was here, and then Jack Thompson by himself was here when we rented him an office, and that was a little convoluted of a contract, but we're not going to discuss that. Don't want to apply to y'all. And I was also here when we had a city employee that was supposed to be doing the job, who fell ill favor of the city council and was removed. So we've always needed somebody to go out there and market the town besides city employees, which do not have the time. And I have no problem with it. Now that everything is, our finances at one time wasn't as good, and that was about the time when Jack had to moved over to a bigger job. And that's the time that that your Chamber of Commerce started falling apart, but there was more than one reason for it. Lack of leadership and zero direction for one. I've only got a couple other questions. So we entered a contract with y'all. How long is our contract for?
So the contract that we proposed was for a year. I think it had an out clause on 30 days on either party. I mean, we want to be in a partnership as long as that partnership is serving both of us well. And so if it's not serving you well, we wouldn't want to bind you to anything that wasn't working.
You can't stand us, then there's an out for you.
I highly doubt that, but yes, sir. If something wasn't working, then we would certainly first try to address it. But we're not going to bind you to a long contract that isn't working.
But dealing with the previous consultants and basically the same little heading up there, I know what to expect. I know what you're selling, and I see nothing wrong with it myself. I know we need it, but it's up to these other board members. Do y'all have any questions for them?
I just have one clarifying question for Mr. Hall. You mentioned the EDC covering this, which I think we already had money in the budget, but there's also an element of the chamber. Is the chamber planning to help fund this initiative, or are they not?
Yes, and I brought that up today for the board. Financially, the chamber's probably not in the position to go 50-50. I do feel the EDC has a role in partnering not only for the consultants, but for the chamber itself. We are similar to a silent partner of the chamber. We're producing for them, and we're asking them to go out and on our behalf, per se. And I think that partnership becomes somewhat of our responsibility to make that happen. Unfortunately, the chamber has not been able to meet that obligation, in my opinion. And I think this is one of the ways that we can improve just partnerships and relationships as a whole, considering like Arlington, Mansfield, Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce, and their connections throughout just the DFW as a whole will help us bring that together. The idea is once the chamber starts flourishing and believing in themselves, honestly, they'll be able to fund that part. And I do believe we'll be able to accomplish that. And we'll have benchmarks where, obviously the benchmark saying, yeah, we're moving forward. What our plan is and what our vision is and our goals are being met. And as long as we're able to accomplish that, I believe the chamber will be able to function on their own with partnership with us.
Thank you. And just one more question. We're taking action on a contract, but I don't think we have a copy of the contract.
That's correct. I'm not bringing the contract to you just yet. I wanted you to hear from the consultants themselves what they're able to provide to us. There are some adjustments that we'll need to do on the contract. Some of it's dealing with just for funding itself that I need to work out, and I wanted to meet with the chamber prior to making any type of agreement with the consultants as a whole. So that's the reason why you don't have the contract in front of you. I needed to know what the chamber could do or what they're willing to do. And one, I want the chamber to set goals and have a vision. And I think the consultants can help us build that. It's imperative. We have to have that. And honestly, the chamber needs help building those goals and the vision. And at the point where we're able to partner with the consultants, I will ask them to do so, just come in and help with the board, have a retreat or a time that we can sit down and just brainstorm and come up with those goals and the vision. Without a vision, I just don't see us being able to move forward. I think it's very valuable that, one, the EDC and the chamber know where we're going, what we're trying to accomplish, but more importantly, our members know. If the members in our community as a whole does not know the purpose of the chamber, I think we're selling ourselves short. And I think that's a product we have to sell, and we have not been able to do that.
You need somebody to redirect the chamber to a point where the city actually knows they have a chamber of commerce.
Absolutely. It's all three of us, the city, the EDC, and the chamber, we should all partner and be one. And we all have to speak the same language. We all have to move the same direction. If not, we're creating an environment that's not wealthy for the city as a whole. Ultimately, the EDC is for the city. The chamber is for the city. It's just in a different manner and a different mindset of the business. And without a business, I'd be point blank, I can't drop the tax rate. If I cannot come in and build a business coalition of trust and integrity all by itself, then we can't expect a developer to come in here and build. We have to have trust, and we have to be able to showcase that we're trustworthy. And without that capability, I truly believe we'll continue to have a challenge. And I think the consultants can come in, educate us, and actually, to a certain extent, lead us to where we need to be on a partnership stance, and more importantly, internally. The chamber has been struggling, and I think we have all identified that for a while, and I think that it's a valuable partner for the city. And it's time for us to step up on the city and the chamber. Yes, sir. Sure, absolutely.
Back when Jack Thompson was here, we probably talked twice a week. I mean, he was always bringing ideas. He was talking to the retailers out there that may want to locate it here. And after he left, I have not been contacted once about the Chamber of Commerce. and I'm right in their backyard. So there is definitely a drop off. He's been gone 6 or 7 years,
Yeah.
and, he was, invaluable to help promote the city.
And
so
hopefully they'll have an idea to bring that restaurant into your building.
I would love it.
Fine dining restaurant, yeah.
No, I think that's something that Kennedale's been sorely lacking over the last however many years.
Yes, sir.
So as an interested third party, I'd be all in favor.
And Mr. Glover, that's why I was asking to prolong the chamber's responsibility in this, and I think this is a good benchmark as well for them. We spoke heavily about how we can rebuild the chamber. The chamber's holding on by one finger on the side of a cliff right now. And it's not completely their fault either, they just had a rough year, is what it comes down to. I think it's a good benchmark for them to show us what they can do for us, just to even get this chamber back on to 2 fingers or 3 fingers from the cliff. And then we can come back in that year of the contract ending and have a better discussion with the chamber if they're more stable about the equal responsibility for this. But for now, we're the ones that have the upper hand in this. We're the ones that can fix this. And I find that these 2 young ladies can really, really do this for us as well.
So you're suggesting we keep carrying the chamber at least a year to give them a chance to come back up?
I think it's a good way to benchmark what these ladies can do for the city. We're kind of tasking them to help us rebuild it. We're gonna have new leadership, a new president come January, whomever that is. It's just a good time, if we're gonna take responsibility for this as a EDC board, I think a year is a good way, they have a year contract, is a good way to benchmark what this company can do for us.
So as part of the vision going forward, bringing in chamber members to the EDC meetings or vice versa, or having an extra meeting for?
So I'm an EDC member and so is Daryl. You have an chamber. I'm a chamber member and so is Daryl. You have 2 members here.
Don't separate in the sense, we're wanting to partner with the chamber. We're wanting to partner with our consultants, and we want to partner with the EDC. This is just me personally. I think that's been our issues in the past. We keep separating, and we don't need to do that. We need a partner. We need to sit down and we need to brainstorm. We need to come in and build our future and have the vision. We don't have a vision, and without a vision, we have no place to go. That's what we need help on. And I believe we had the opportunity in front of us that's almost affordable to be able to take us forward. And without it, I can't do it by myself, and this board cannot do it by themselves. We need help. We need to be educated, and we need someone to help guide us to set the vision. And without it, I truly believe any organization's not going to move forward. They're not going to prosper without it, and we need it. And it's our responsibility. This is our city, and if another part of our entity, which the chamber is, although it's its own entity, it's a part of us. And without partnering with them, we're setting ourselves up for failure.
You know, a lot of our citizens that live in our, like Brookstone and our HOAs, they're small business owners. So our community, and that's why the average income for our city is about $125,000. It's up there because most of us are educated or we have businesses of our own. What's important about the chamber, at least for me, when I started 14 years ago, my business was, I didn't know what I was doing. And it's very scary, you know, to throw all your eggs and all your savings into a basket that's not producing. The chamber was there to give me advice. You know, I met Daryl, for example, there. We've had long-time relationships for 14 years. And other, the businesses who were established, they were like mentors for me. Now, 14 years later, I'm the mentor to those new businesses, but it's been hard to capture the new businesses, as these ladies have said, since 2020, and especially with things going online. So, but if you look on like Kennedale News or Kennedale Buzz or anything online, the business groups, DFW business groups and stuff like that, the fear of starting a business for small business is still there. So the need of the chamber is there. And in a community of small business owners, I think that's important to grow a local economy or a micro economy. it's scary to own a business.
I think tonight I asked that, with your permission to continue to move forward and negotiate, to move forward with the consultants. And next month, I will be able to bring back the president of our chamber and have a vision, for the chamber to have a vision, and for the EDC to understand that vision and where do we want to go? What goals do we want to set? What vision do we want to set? And we have a team here that I believe that can move us forward with that. Not only for today, but at whatever point we're no longer here, someone else can pick that vision up and move forward with it. And that's what we're missing. We've missed it for a while. We continue to have a vision that changes. That's too difficult. We need one vision, and we need to move forward with that vision. That includes the EDC, the chamber, and the city as a whole.
So, Mr. Hall, you're not looking for a motion tonight? You're, okay.
I just wanted to bring everything to you. It's been on the, obviously, it was approved with our budget back in August. And as we move forward, this was one of the plans to bring that to you.
Thank you so much for allowing us to be here tonight and have this visit. We're going to excuse ourselves, but if y'all want to have them vote next week, feel free to do so. But thank you again for having us.
Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman, unless I'm mistaken, it seems like the board wants to at least start the pursuer of this. Let the city manager speak with the chamber and bring it back to us next month, unless I'm mistaken.
At this time, I hadn't heard a whole lot of anything negative. The only thing negative I have is and you said the chamber can't afford anything. We've carried and I understand, we've carried the chamber one way or the other for years and years, whether it's providing building, providing Jack Thompson to him. We paid for Mr. Thompson. They paid very little, but he did a good job in keeping them going. So somebody like that can keep them going again. Do I think that we can get it back up eventually? Yes. But I think it's going to take more than the consultants to do it. I've dealt with the chamber since they brung it back before they put before the highway got expanded. Because it was dead for a while, and then they brung it back. And I was in the first part of it, and then get dilution really quick because nothing happens. And then I joined again, and after Jack left, no. Nothing to do with it. But I have nothing against footing the bill for them for a little while, but I don't want to keep carrying them the rest of forever, even though you say it's a joint method, and it is joint. But I don't want to I don't mind carrying them up to a point with EDC funds, city funds, long as it benefits the city itself, not benefiting Chamber of Commerce members, let's say like that. If it benefits the city, I'm all for it.
I think benefiting the chamber will just be a byproduct, but Mr. Hall, when we spoke about this before, we brainstormed milestones and other things that we would kind of want them to see. How would we measure their success if we're going to pay them? That was a topic. I'm sure we'll have something in the contract that alludes to that. Agreed, 6 months is probably too soon to expect a measurable result, but a year, 18 months, we'll likely see something. I think at the end of the day, though, we know we just have to do something. We'll never have all the information to make the best decision, so if they're willing to work with us, I think it's the right move.
So the chamber had a volunteer worker this year that was working on commission to try to get new members. One of the things that she was running into was when she called somebody was mad at the city. So it's the image of the city. It's something that Daryl, when he took over city manager, was his, what he wanted to do was clean up the image of the city. And I can say that this council also wants to clean up the image of the city. I think this is just another, again, tool for us to have somebody with this experience and authority that we're going to give them to help clean up the image of the city. And so I agree with you. I had the same experience that you did, exact same. But it's important, and I think we're at a crossroads in our community to where let's try this again. And I think that this company can do that for us.
Any more discussions on this matter? Go ahead. No, please, be it. I've been, I know
Okay,
some
this is-
negative stuff too, but
This is how I look at it. Yeah, the Chamber of Commerce has been stale. The last luncheon, there was more city employees and city representatives than there was businesses. I'm looking at this as a consultant for the EDC. I don't feel that we are 50-50 with the Chamber of Commerce. We need to focus on our job and development in the city because that's what we are. Now, if the chamber, when you look in our bylaws does say that we're supposed to work with the chamber. But if the chamber's not doing anything and the main thing is to get the chamber going, then why doesn't the chamber pay for these ladies to come in and do that? And then the EDC can pay for their own. And I know the chamber doesn't have any money. But, so I look at it different. I mean, I look at the EDC as our job is here to grow the city. I don't know what the Chamber of Commerce does. I know what other cities' chambers of commerce do, but I don't know what ours does. And then I look at the chamber board members. If we go into some type of contract with them to where we're funding them for a year, then I expect every chamber board member to be at an EDC meeting, not just the president. I want all the board to be here because if we need to work with them, they need to work with us. So I hate being negative about it, but I mean, that's just my opinion about it. And I've seen it good in the past, but it's like the chamber offers nothing for anybody to join. So, I mean, I know that they worked on their website and stuff like that, but, as a citizen, I can go on their website, and if I want to try to find a plumber, there's no way I can access that. I haven't found it. Well,
And that's the benchmarks that we're talking about.
Right.
Exactly that. One, we have to get the right leadership in place to be able to move forward. It doesn't matter who it is. If you don't have the right leadership in place, then it's more difficult. That's why, or one of the reasons why we have a change in the chamber itself. We've had the same leadership in there for many, many, many years. And we recognize it, the chamber recognizes it, and we're trying to correct it. I think we're focusing more on the funding side of it other than what is the return? What are we getting out of that? Because it's hand in hand. What the chamber can bring to the city is the same thing what the city can bring to the EDC or vice versa. It is. We're going to work hand on hand to bring that. The chamber can bring in business just like the EDC does. The idea of the chamber is to help make sure the businesses are flourishing with whatever tools they have. And you're right, we need to go in and we need to be able to modify what is the benefit to be a chamber member. This consulting company has that experience to come in and get us on the right track of what is today's standard on what do we have to offer. And that's part of EDC. The chamber has a website that probably anyone that has an interest in the city of Kennedale, the first location they go is the Chamber of Commerce. They look at their website. What do we have on there? The consulting company has the experience and the knowledge of what we put there. The same thing for the EDC. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to have them come in and help us build our website. What does EDC have to offer? And it's been a lot of discussion, particularly with our demographics. What do we have to offer on the EDC and the chamber? The chamber does have a different role, but we're very comparable of what we have to offer. And if we're not in sync with that, then it makes it more difficult. And you're right. Should we ask the board members of the chamber to be here? I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do believe our president of the chamber should come here and report to us every month.
Or
That should,
representative?
yes, the president or whoever represents the chamber, board member or whoever, that should happen. Those are little things that we haven't been doing. And my vision of it is to correct these little things, and we'll be able to build upon that. But once again, we have no goals and we have no vision. Without that, how can we ask anybody to go out and accomplish something that we're not giving them any guidance on? And I think this is a fresh start. It gives us an opportunity to, hey, let's start over, let's reset the clock here, and let's move forward. Let's make it right. And I think we have that opportunity to do so across the board. The EDC, this is a new board. This is not the same board we had a year ago. It's not the same board we had 10 years ago. We don't have the same city government. We operate different. Our vision's different. We have moved leaps and bounds, and this is an opportunity to partner with the ones that make a difference in this community all the way around, and we shouldn't pass it up.
Well, I think on what he said, that I think all of us, including the chamber, should meet on a regular basis with, if we're going to use this consultant, whether it's going to be in this meeting or after this meeting or whatever. I think we all need to be on the same page if you're talking about a cohesive effort
Absolutely.
to grow the city.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. We can have retreats, we can have brainstorming meetings, we can do all kinds of things. We're not limited to just this board. And we're doing it for the same thing for the city council. There's things that we need to do better, and we're going to do that. And it's for the betterment of the city of Kennedale. Having a brainstorm, I mean, we got 3 different generations right here on this board. And honestly, all 3 have a, well, we're going to bring up anybody's age, but I'm not sure who the oldest was. I'm just indicating there's 3 generations. But there's 3 generations that are being recognized. Today's economic development, we have 5 generations we deal with. And now every one of them has a different view, a different vision of what a business does and how it operates. And I'm probably in the same boat as probably everybody on this board. I'm accustomed to go to an office every day. I'm accustomed to going to work, well, except maybe one, part-time. But the idea of my whole experience is go to work. You're going somewhere. That's not today's society. Our younger generations technically don't work that way. They have a totally different mindset. Even dealing with my own kids, and they have businesses, they don't operate the way I do. And no matter how I want to explain, no, you do it this way, they just don't see it that way. And unfortunately, it works for them. So how can you go and say, that's not right? Because it worked. So I think this gives us an idea, an opportunity to broaden what we're trying to accomplish. And I don't disagree with either one of you. I truly don't. But we have to have a kickstart. We got to reset the clock.
So it sounds like if we move forward with them, one thing we'll need is a Venn diagram that shows council or city, chamber, and EDC, and kind of where we overlap and where we're not overlapping at. But something that Mr. Michaels brought up, and I think it's going to be key too, is who's giving direction to the consultants
That would be me.
So we'll need to make, I think we'll want to be crystal clear on that, that they're not getting dual messages, conflicting messages, or anything else. We want one mission, one vision moving forward, to your point. How do we accomplish that?
Yes, sir. That's absolutely correct. And I shared that same concept with the chamber earlier today. Well, once again, I wanted to share, this is a very important step forward. And it takes all of us. It's not just one. It's not just me. It does. It takes the EDC, it takes the chamber, and it takes the council. And more importantly, it takes our citizens. We have to show them that we're putting the right foot forward, or maybe even the left, whichever way, and showing a product. Who are we? And it's time. We have an opportunity, and we need to take advantage of it.
And I guess you'll have the CP2 consultants make a city council meeting so they can talk to them too, as a whole.
They will, and
Because
it's the same thing
contracts
for
are
the
all
chamber.
settled. All contracts are mainly signed through the city council.
Well, and the same thing for Mr. Glover, what he's indicating is that first, the consultants need to know where we're going. And I go back to, what is the vision? I can tell you a vision all day long, but it needs to be all of us. And that's the reason why I didn't bring the contract to you tonight, is that you need to know what the goals and what the vision is for the chamber. What are they trying to accomplish? Because it connects us and it connects the council. And if all three of us don't know what the vision of the chamber is, once again, and we're not moving forward. Although we're all three different entities, we all have the same goals, and that's to go forward. And I want to be able to bring those goals to the EDC and bring those goals to the council, because it's imperative that we know what they are. Obviously, the chamber and the EDC's visions are different from the city, but the ultimate goal, the ultimate destination is the same, and it's how do we get there? And the only way we get there is have goals and the vision to accomplish it. And as long as we continue to meet the goals, that's our benchmarks. Just like Mr. Glover is indicating, how do we measure where we're at? And you measure it by the goals. If we accomplish the goals, and that's what's moving us forward. The destination moves. Every goal you meet, the destination just keeps getting further away from you because you have another goal to meet. And it's like a bicycle. I mean, we're constantly moving. And ultimately, I hope we never meet our destination. Because if we do, we got to start all over again. So hopefully the destination just keeps moving. And we're going to do that. We're going to set a goal, and we're going to achieve that goal.
All right. Let's move on so we can finish up. I know.
You can talk all
At
night?
least we did not bring up the upcoming Christmas stuff.
Can we get a bio break for 5 minutes, or can we really go through this next part fast? Okay.
All right. Now the one we've really been waiting on. Discuss and take action on the application process and approval qualifications for economic development funding grants. Take a 5-minute break.
Do we just want to go through these? So this is version 3, which we produced after one of our last work sessions. It went to the attorney's office. They redlined it. That's what the comments are on the right. I recommend just go one by one. I'll make notes about what our discussions are, decisions are, and either send that to Mr. Hull, the city secretary, send that back to them, and then try to get this done, or do you just want to vote on it as it is? I haven't seen anything in here that there are more questions than legal advice. We'll just go one by one. First one here, I think we're good. This already exists, the economic development funding, so I don't know why that's a problem or question. Comment A1, I'm just going to call those out. Does anyone see any reason to change the name based on comment A1? As in, this is not a new process, but an existing. I think they're under the impression this is a new process and not an existing process.
Is that just regarding the name, or is that section 1 overall, or what?
I'm talking about comment A1 and the way the comment reads.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm looking at this version with
okay.
lines on the
That's
side
it.
here. Not the version in the packet. Comment A1, I think they seem to be under the impression this is a new process. It's not new, it's existing. So I think we're going to just ignore that comment.
Yeah.
Okay, comment A2, is there already a process in place? This was really more just if we, in the future, need to make changes, we can make changes. As far as what the process is, I think that's just, we bring it back here and discuss it in a work session and vote on it.
If there's a process, we were unable to find that process.
I think that just markers it, right?
Say it again.
That's just a marker for us to be able to do this in the future. We can, but it wasn't stated.
Right, if we didn't say it and then we changed it, would someone complain about that? So we can, as new situations arise, we can make changes to account for that. Okay, moving on. Comment A3. I feel like that's going to be a lot of links. He said not necessary, so can we just strike A3?
Yeah.
Okay. Comment A4. What do you guys think about that? Sole proprietorships and partnerships don't necessarily have to have formation documents. However, do we want to give out money to a company that doesn't have formation documents?
I think they should have formation documentation. You can't operate in the state without being documented.
So for sole props, it's only a 30. It gives you your DBA records for taxes, so that's all you really need. And then we also have, still, one of the things we're trying to fix is locally, I still technically have to register with the city as a home business. So those are two official documents that can show that they are sole prop in a working business.
Mr. Horton has some information
The,
to share with
the
us.
sole proprietorships, assumed names are actually with the Secretary of State now. They've taken that away from the county. But with a partnership, in my opinion, we're splitting hairs over a formation document because a partnership will, at a minimum, have a partnership agreement. So if two people want to start a lawn service company, that should be formalized. If it's two people, that doesn't have to go to the state. So that's just a contract between two people. So I think the formation documents, there's two things as we're getting caught up on, in my opinion, the attorney's looking at what's a true formation document, like a certificate of formation, articles of organization, those type of things that a corporation would need. But a partnership will have a formation document. It just wouldn't be filed with the Secretary of State under every circumstance. But regardless, we would need to see a partnership agreement or a document that establishes that business.
So it says, they asked, is this required? We're saying, yeah, keep the formation documents in there. I think Mr. Horton's also in agreement on that.
I was just looking, it says do not necessarily have to have formation documents. So partnerships have a document that creates the partnership, is what I'm saying. Like right there, it indicates that partnerships do not necessarily have to have formation documents. They do, they just don't have to file with the state.
Right, but I mean, paragraph, sorry, F, under section 3, it says DBA has business formation documents, comma, DBA or other documentation. They may have inserted the DBA or other documentation providing existence of the business. Okay, so I see that they didn't take out the formation documents, they just added in DBA or.
Instead of DBA, I know an attorney did this and I'm not an attorney, but I would like to see assumed name certificate or something else because DBA is an abbreviation for a document that may not be commonly known.
So you can operate a business in the state of Texas without a sales tax permit? I mean,
You can. There's the Texas Administrative Code actually printed this out in anticipation of your question, but what's considered a non-taxable entity, which would not have to file franchise tax or the public information request, one of those items actually is a partnership made up of natural persons. So if you and I could start a partnership, we wouldn't have to file with the state. We wouldn't have to worry about franchise tax. If we tried to limit liability, or we wanted to run that through a business, like our two entities had a partnership, then we would have to worry about franchise tax, but just two natural people wouldn't.
so I can make sales without charging you,
Well, sales tax, if you're wholesale, you don't pay sales tax.
Right.
So in that point, you wouldn't need a sales tax.
I'll use my.
Or if you're doing services, like services, CPAs, for example, don't charge sales tax. So you wouldn't, depending on what you do, plumbers that do commercial plumbing, they don't know if they're doing, or I'm sorry, new residential construction, they don't do sales tax. That's on the home purchase price. So there's several instances where a business wouldn't need a sales tax application and they would still meet this burden of being established to create profit.
Okay.
I'll use my business as an example. Like if I ran my business as Jeff Navarez, I don't even need a DBA, right? I can just charge people, and as long as I file my taxes with the federal government as me, yeah, under that tax bracket, that's what it is. The DBA allows me to assume another name under my Social Security, right?
But remember, this was based upon us receiving sales tax, I thought, from these business and business grants.
Now, my business doesn't do sales tax.
We mentioned sales tax, receiving revenue when we started this, remember?
Yeah, my business doesn't do sales tax. I don't sell.
I understand that, I understand that, but as far as these grants were concerned, my understanding was that we were giving these grants to promote growth in the city as well as bring in sales tax income. That was my understanding. Am I wrong about that?
Yes,
It's
your
part of
premise is
it.
right, yeah.
Yes.
I don't see a requirement in eligibility that is sales tax. I do see, or I've read before that the business needed a profit motive, but I can't remember where I saw that.
I think it's further,
I think to a certain extent and I might be wrong, but everything we're talking about is already documented. If a sales tax permit is required, I think that's the key word, required by the Texas Comptroller's Office. If they're not required, I mean, we're talking about something that we don't need to.
But something I was leaning towards, and Mr. Terry mentioned the franchise tax requirement, I would like to see language in here that if applicable, a business would have active status with the right to transact business and active status with the Secretary of State. That's fulfilled by filing an annual franchise tax report, which also includes the public information report. It's public information. I ran them for two businesses in town this afternoon, and it's part of the due diligence from our department. If we see an application, we'll run this and provide it when it comes in front of the board.
would the sales tax permit from the comptroller's office not cover what you just described, or is that different?
They're two different things.
Can you send me that language, because it sounds like you have something specific you want to see in there?
I would just like to see a taxable entity as defined in Texas Administrative Code Title 34 has an active right to transact business in Texas in an active Secretary of State registration.
What he's asking if you'll send that
I'll
information.
send it, I'm just putting it on the record, you know, and I'm keeping it in spirit of our city council and making sure it's verbally on the record.
Yes, sir.
Then I'll go back and watch the tape and,
I'll remember this. I'll send you an email in the morning.
thank you, sir. Okay, I think are we good on that one? All right. Next one, comment A5. Who decides what is routine? And that's a good point. What's routine maintenance of landscaping? So I had thought about that. We could define it as anything that occurs 4 or more times a year, because I really don't want to have to pay for people's flower beds to get, ripped out and replaced every 3 months. So can we say anything occurring more than 4 or more times a year is considered routine? So therefore we're not paying for fertilizer and whatnot, or?
Yeah, I just suggest a definition section anyways, in something like this, and then we can put that definition in that section.
I thought this had.
So like what we do with our state laws and city laws, we usually have a definition, usually on the front end, that defines the terms being used within the document, and that's something that can be defined in a definition section.
Well, so noted. For this though, how do we want to define what is routine?
I'm fine with your definition of it.
Yeah, let's take that routine out, routine landscape.
We wouldn't want to, personally, I don't think we need, a grant would have anything to do with somebody's landscaping. Because that's so subject to whatever somebody else wants.
I think if I remember the discussion correctly, the landscaping was about the parkway and some type of overlay that's on the parkway, and it was in the spirit of cleaning up the parkway and landscaping being one of the elements of that.
287 overlay setup.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Well, it may be.
but it says right here, okay, go ahead, Darren.
No, one of the things, what's been referenced is the facade of the building itself. Do we want to include the landscaping in it? Which there's value to it, don't get me wrong, but it's also something that's got to be maintained. And it may be that we just keep with the facade of the building.
Right. Extreme example, but we give someone money, they say we're going to resaw their front area, then they just don't water it. Grass dies. They just keep using EDC funds, they get a bucket of money. Oh, I'll just put down more sod. Don't water it. Looks good for a little bit. Something like that where I'd hate to see the money get wasted like that.
Yeah.
On something that's not, it has to be maintained, it can die. Concrete repaving, that's different, that's not going anywhere. It's supposed to be maintained, but not in the same way. So do we keep it? Do we strike it?
Or maybe put as a one-time cost of as a routine maintenance as a one-time cost for grant.
So let me ask it a different way. What if we take out the word of landscaping and just leave in routine maintenance? Meaning if you can't use these funds just to maintain your building. You can't use it to fund your janitor or your facilities guy to run around and change light bulbs and air filters and things like that.
But I could use it to paint my building? Wouldn't that be maintenance as well? I guess that's where I go back to defining it in a definition.
Well, that'd be more of a capital improvement. Paint maybe subjective, but still it's a facade improvement. I'm just saying if we just take out the word of landscaping and just say a routine maintenance, we'll just cover it at that. We deal with it when it comes up, but at least we have the language in there that says we're not gonna.
Well, I think we still have to go back and identify routine. For me, I think we just take it out if we stay with the concept of the facade or capital improvements. Maybe we identify what is a capital expense. Is it $1,000 or $5,000, something to that? Because we still have to identify routine.
Okay, so I'm going to take out the words and routine maintenance of landscaping. So we're going to end the sentence at new construction.
Yeah.
Okay, done. Moving on. Comment A6, is this one bite of the apple per property? So this is regarding paragraph C, and this is around basically businesses not being able to come back in consecutive years and ask for the same grant again. So basically, if you come once, you're going to have to sit out the next year and then come back the following year. Meaning we're not keeping zombie businesses alive.
Absolutely.
Not just one time. You just, one time, you have to sit out the next year and then you can come back the following year.
As needed, if they're growing and they need to make changes, I can see that after a period of time, but not all the time.
Well, I think that when we discussed it originally, the idea was if you have a business that's not really sustainable and is just coming back here to get a lifeline over and over and over again.
Well, Mark, you can get new equipment every year, man. You can get new equipment every year for your shop, man.
I'm with you on David on this. I hear your concern on it. But I hear what you're saying, Mr. Cherry, too. We don't want to limit, but I think somebody who's successful could wait another year anyways. What he's trying to do is limit a company that is going under, and so here's a lifeline, and then their next slow season, next winter, they're looking for another lifeline kind of thing.
I understand that, yeah.
So
I think it should be once a year. I mean, honestly,
No, so this isn't how often you can, we identified a different paragraph around how often when we will review these. This is the one I think he brought up originally, Mr. Michaels, about not coming back year after year, just looking for the handout. Year one, great. Sit out year two, you can come back in year three with a new request.
So we don't have a cap on it for a 10-year period, you're not going to skip every other year for 10 years.
Then they would get,
5 years, they get 5 grants. In 10 years, they get 5 grants,
potentially, yeah.
if they're approved.
If they're approved and if the funds are available and all that jazz, yeah. Okay, so we're just leaving that alone?
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much money we can share the wealth with other companies that might need it, but I don't want to limit it as well, as Mr. Terry said. I think it's perfect.
Okay.
Now, I'll jump ahead on your A7 comment. I was going to ask, does this give, for example, let's just say John, he gets 20 applicants, 10 of them shouldn't even be before us at all because they don't qualify. Can he clean that up for us and bring us the 10 that are valid? That's the A7 comment.
One other question. So we have a business that receives the grant funding. What if the person owns 2 businesses in town?
They would only get the funds for one of their, back to the formation document question. Those 2 businesses would, in theory, have 2 different formation documents, 2 different sales tax IDs. So they would only get funds for one of them. Is your question, could they also apply for one of their other businesses as well?
Yeah.
Be a different business, they have side-by-side business, and I know there's nothing around here, but this in the future, if they're doing coffee over here, and then they got a bakery next door, but there's a wall between them, but they're owned by the same man.
I think the government would look at,
Be eligible for 2 grants in 1 year.
Well,
Yeah, 'cause we're
it's
not-
identified as a property owner,
Right, it says property owner.
not business.
Right.
yeah, I don't think we said same individual owner. I think we're looking at sales tax IDs and formation.
What it says on there, it says it twice. It says a business or property owner, and then it goes to a business.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. I see what you're
Like
saying.
it should say
Property owner or business or something like that. I see what you're saying, Mark, yeah.
Just make sure, so maybe I'm reading it different. Section 4G?
Okay, so we're back on A6 now, sorry, we moved back up.
A6, okay, I'm sorry.
Mr. Yuri, what would you want it to say?
You know, like this, is
No. No, it'd be,
No problem, then the language is correct.
it'd be like you opening a car lot next to you.
See, it looks to me like it says per physical location.
Yep.
So it's, I think in your case, because it says a business or property owner may apply for one or more of grants per physical location set forth herein within a fiscal year. So to me, the limitation's the location, not,
Would you,
There is several businesses that will have one location, more than one business in that place, not counting you.
do you want to
Be
remove,
that you would go to one place, and we don't give loan that, there'll be a business here and a sign over here. And the sign is the man's legal business, but they'll operate out of the same office and the same physical location.
I was just thinking about the bakery situation, that the argument, if there's a wall, would be that those are two different suites, so the physical location is actually two different spots, but if they're all operating out of the same space and there's not a wall there, I don't know how that would be differentiated.
My suggestion is to take business out and just go property owner. Because we need the.
but when the business is
Not limit-
leasing the space,
Yeah.
so what do we do it the other way? What if we take out or property owner to say business may apply for one? Does that flow better? Take out the words or property owner?
The reason why I'm indicating property owner is we're wanting them to improve the quality of the building, not the facade or things of that nature. If we put business, I think we're opening it back up to other factors.
It's already in there, though.
But then how would the
Property owner.
pizza place, for example, reapply for something like this? Because they don't own a lease. We own that, for example.
Well, it is his, it's, the lease is technically his.
But you suggested taking the words a business out and leaving just property owner. In that case, it'd be Craig Hughes or us coming in requesting it. They couldn't come in and request it anymore. So it's looser if we take out or property owner, because then the business who's leasing the space can also apply for the grant. And I think we have other language in there around property owner must be aware of it, sign off on it, something to that effect.
Right on that, we did have some wording that the business had to work with the property owner and,
Yeah, it was really strict at first. And we walked it back a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think from the bakery standpoint, you're still, even with paragraph C, you could say if they're two separate businesses with two different tax IDs, they could, in theory, the same person could apply for two grants, one for each, and still be within the rails of the guidelines of the grant. Is it following the spirit of it? Probably not. But how restrictive do we want to try to get with this language? We're already putting in a lot more than we've ever had, so.
Yeah.
Don't want to be too restrictive. Don't want to be too restrictive, but we want to keep it where we have complete control of it.
Great. So what do you want to say?
So if we do it with the business owner, to me, sounds a little more, sounds better than a property owner.
I can live with that. All right, cutting out or property owner. So it will now say a business may apply for, and then everything else we leave alone. They struck out the following one fiscal year. We're going to leave that in there, though. Just to clarify that, my comment for A6 was we're leaving that alone. We want that language in there. I think everybody was in agreement on that. Okay, are we good to move on to A7? No, we went back.
Yeah, we went back.
All right, so now, so Mr. Navarez, you had a comment on this around whether Director Horton should be possibly pre-screening these, which I completely agree with. I don't want to go through 20 of these up here. Absolutely.
I pulled up the previous packet and there was a section on it that talked about the EDC staff reviewing the documents to determine completeness before bringing to the board of directors. And also, it talked about when the funding would open and what the time periods were. That's not in this version. Did we
That's
take it
version
out?
2, and we're on version 3.
So did this section come out completely?
Well, I'm saying that's version 2, and now we're working on version 3, so I don't know.
Right, so if you look at if you look at the very front page, it has the program overview, which is this paragraph on top, but that entire section is gone. So I'm just trying to make sure for the record that we struck that.
I would have to go back and look at my,
Okay.
I never remember my laptop on this meeting.
Okay.
Go back and look at my old notes.
Thank you.
Just wonder what happened to that.
A7, you can handle minor, anything minor, or somebody in your staff can handle a minor deal like this on A7?
Or the consultants, yeah.
I just would, it says KEDC staff, so that's Daryl as the director, and then on the bylaws, Bobby, Joe, and I are the only staff that's defined.
Okay, I think I see what they're saying. If,
We have to identify modifications.
Modifications outside of their initial, I mean, minor, we need to,
Well,
I
the
guess we need to
comment that he's
define
making, if they
minor
change their
modifications
paint
and
color.
modifications on the grant, to the grant.
No,
no, this was them like changing completely, like the pizza shop suddenly not buying a new oven and buying a completely different piece of equipment that was not originally requested. Like that would be the modification that we would want to review.
now can we use the consultants that we're talking about paying for help with some of these modifications? And since they're supposed to have a vision, right? And
Well, we had the vision.
Well, we have to approve it. We don't want them to be handing out funds without.
no, they won't be handing
I-
out funds, but
I
I'm
think
just
they need
saying.
to come back to the board.
I think so too, because I just thought of something. You said oven. So a man says, I'm gonna buy a new oven. But then he changed his revisions. Oh, I found a used one, so I'm just gonna buy this instead. Without permission from us, it would not fly.
I mean, in that case, if they turn in the receipt, he'd only get reimbursed for what he spent. So would that matter? I mean, I guess I could put we had added in and approved by the KEDC Board of Directors or appointees. And then we can assign Dr. Horton to do it
can do
or
that.
the consultants.
Or appointee.
Okay.
I also will not get behind anything that makes us micromanage the business. We were supposed to put these ideas in place as a guideline for businesses so we can narrow down the scope. But as far as micromanaging business, that's not what I'm in the business for. Now, the receipts, for example, is a good way for us to ensure what we want this money to go for. But I just don't want us to be like some sort of board getting in between private entities and private business. That's just what I'm gonna say about that.
And I'd agree, we don't need to micromanage, but we're talking, I would only say in major changes from their proposal to. Now, I guess you'd have to define what a major change is.
Well, and once again, we need to identify what is a modification. And second, for what you're indicating for micromanaging, my suggestion is they don't need to come to EDC if they don't want to be told what they can do with the money.
My point is that when we approve something for something, that's the extent, actually the extent of our power on this. Even on all grants, all scholarships, any money that's given out there, we're not here to go check on them or we can make things, put things in place to ensure that the money's going where we want it to go, like a receipt. But sending in the police to make sure they bought it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we understand as a board, we're not here to micromanage any business. It's called free enterprise for a reason. Okay.
We're able to do that by the receipt, just like.
I'm okay with mechanisms. I just don't want any policing of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
So did we settle on what to change here? I know we mentioned.
I go back to what I originally said. I really want some sort of review before it gets to us, whether it's Daryl or John Just to
I
ensure.
think that's already, this isn't about the initial review. This is about, again, they say they're gonna do X, then they decide, you know what, I'm not gonna do that at all. I got $25,000. I'm gonna go do Y instead and turn in the receipt, and we're looking at, well, this is not what you said you were gonna do. The idea is that if you want to make that big of a modification, you need to come back like, we have a different idea, or are we still good with this? That's all the intent is.
Yeah.
It's
No,
not to micromanage, it's not to police anything.
I still think they need to come back for the modification.
I would rather leave it in there and just have the cover than not, and
Well,
someone do something completely different with our money.
if they come back to me and ask me, my modification may not be the same. And then the responsibility lies on the board.
So all modifications need to go back to the board and just be a blanket statement.
I agree with that.
Okay, what I'm reading on the first paragraph is the application is submitted to and approved by the economic development. So modifications would be, to me, if we already approved what they want to do, then I don't know, it's a tricky, I kind of like, they could modify, like someone buying an oven, then find a cheaper oven. But I mean, but we have receipts for that. So, I mean, it's already submitted and approved by KEDC. So any modifications, I mean, so if we approve it, they get the funding, then we're going to come in and say, if they want to modify it, they have to come back to us, even though they already have the funding.
It's not so much about the money, it's about buying the oven. You know, if they come in and buy an oven and they go out and find one cheaper, obviously, you know, if it's that type of quality, you want them to go do that. But they're still not going to be funded until they bring the receipt.
Right.
Right.
Receipts,
So
right.
that goes back to what Jeff is indicating, how we control it. It's okay for them, the application is going to indicate, I'm going to buy an oven, I'm going to buy a refrigerator, and I'm going to do this. It doesn't, we don't have to go in and identify what brand they're going to get.
Yeah.
We just want the oven and we want that product. It's kind of like the comment of, you know, what color do we use? Well, we don't need to dictate that. You just need to paint the building.
I think the modify comes in if, like, for example, I did find a cheaper oven, but I got approved for 10,000. I'll pay for the 4,000, but now I want the 10,000 for a fryer, let's just say. And then I think that's what you're talking about, is come back and get it modified for the fryer. Okay, so make sure we're on the same page on that.
So no changes on A7. No, it's all good discussions. It's part of the process. Either going back to A7 for a second, paragraph G.
Yeah, you've read 3 versions.
Are we okay with leaving it saying any modifications must first receive written approval by either the board or the executive director? So, yeah. Number 8, comment A8. I still think, I get that they're saying, you know, what if they start and they hear about the grant and they come in and they want us, they try to apply for it after they've already begun. What are our thoughts on changing that?
Started and then applied for the grant, brought the receipts in, so.
I think the idea is that they can't assume they're going to get the funding, so don't start the work with the hope that you're going to get grant funding. I mean, I think I'm okay to take the sentence out.
It's like telling someone they can't really start fixing their business before applying for the grant. I mean, you have to know what you need before
Get to a plan.
you apply for the grant. I mean, if I get in and I I bring a contractor in. I say, okay, well, how much is gonna do this? How much is do that? Then I can bring those receipts to the board, but for me to delay my construction or my modifications until I get approved, one way or the other, it's gonna come out of my pocket to begin with, like they are doing now anyway.
Mr. Neverez, you may know this, if you apply for other grant funding, let's say you get I think an SBA loan was mentioned previously, can that be retroactively spent, or can it be spent towards dollars already used, or can that only be spent moving forward? And sorry to put you on the spot, I figured you might know.
So generally, a small business grant, you would submit what you would like to do with it, and then they give you the money. Usually in smaller forms like this, you do have a little bit more tight-knit because they want to make sure you apply. Sort of like when the Rotary gives away $1,000 scholarship, we make sure that where are we sending this? We don't give it to the student, we give it to the college to ensure that it gets to where it's going. In general, when you get a small business grant from the federal government or state agencies or nonprofits or whatever, you convince whomever that you're going to get it and you get approved and you get a check. But this grant's a little different because it's very specific. It's specific for, revitalizing our town to promote economic development. So that gives us a little bit more control, if you want to call it that, to where I'm just starting a business and within 3 years I qualify for 60 grand to ensure that to my next growth of phase with my business, it's not too many markers on that.
So I think thinking back to this too, I think one of the other reasons the sentence is in here is that if someone were to apply but had not yet been approved, but then to Mr. Terry's point, started improvements, put it on credit cards thinking, oh, I got this grant money coming, and then it doesn't, and then like we'll say, sorry, we're not going to fund your grant. It's almost saving themselves from themselves. If that makes sense.
I would just say it like this.
We can add wording in there saying that you start your modifications at risk of not receiving the grant.
I mean, all business is a risk, and that's what's scary about starting a business.
Well, something we can also look at too, any invoices that comes in prior or before the grant's approved that we will not fund. I mean,
We're talking about matching though, right? We're talking about matching anyway, so if they got the receipts.
That's actually, you said that, and it made me think, I don't think we have any language in here around the timeframe for what the receipts need to be. I know we have language around when they need to complete the work, but you're right. If they come back with a receipt from 2 years ago, like, I'm just gonna slip this in there too.
Well, they got a date on the receipts.
They
though,
do,
right?
but did we have anything in here that said, they may try to say, well, this was
Within the
leading up
fiscal
to the
year,
project.
within this fiscal year of the grant application.
But it was just gonna make it harder for Mr. Director Horton's office to deal with the reimbursements if we take this out and we let them start, I got receipts all over the place. I'm gonna start, just turning these things in for Lowe's buckets and Homer buckets and everything else. That's just a mess for his office. Whereas if we say, no, you only turn in receipts from the time you're approved forward, and that just keeps everything easy for him. I see a lot of nodding heads.
Yeah, I agree. We can check the date on a receipt. That's simple. But if we start going to fiscal years, well, the business year might be on a calendar year, we're on a fiscal year, we start adding complexity that
Well, it's our fiscal year though, right, John?
well, everything's going to be based on when that award is given. If you're given at the end of the fiscal year, whatever your cycles are, I just don't want to hamper a business based on a fiscal year that's ours that might be arbitrary to them.
But
we can look at a receipt and say the grant was awarded on 10/1. Anything before 10/1 doesn't get reimbursed, but after does. We do that anyway.
But on our conversations about this in the past, we've talked about our fiscal year. You know, we're giving out this amount for this fiscal year, and then it rolls over to the next year, so.
Right, but we have different language too around, they need to be done within a year. We originally had 6 months, we said that may be a little tight given other constraints, so give them a year to get the project done, but I think,
So when we grant approval for this, I'm assuming John markers it and separates it. It's no longer in general fund. It's markered for something, whether it takes.
It's
them
never
a
been
day.
in the general fund, it's in the EDC.
EDC fund, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's here.
Yeah, earmarked, exactly. So it's, the money's no longer there for us, whether it takes a year or two. It sits there, but it's no longer available for us to disseminate.
I don't think any funding should be prior approved. So if we approve it, just say 10-1, then whatever he purchases from 10-1 for that 6 months or a year is the only thing he gets reimbursed. We open up,
so we
So
leave,
we're looking at a city physical year because we do have wording here from October 1st to September 30th.
I just caution against that because if we're saying one fiscal year, some businesses will have different time spans to spend out that money than others because you're not going to issue every grant on 10/1.
right, it wasn't.
Going to be some throughout the year. And if we're tying it to a fiscal year, that person who gets the grant on October 23rd or whatever it plays out to next year will have more time to spend out than the person who is awarded a grant in March or April or whatever your timelines are. So if we tie it to a fiscal year, I think that'll be unfair. If we tie it to 12 months, that's easy enough for us to manage.
And that's the language was in there. The reason our fiscal year is mentioned is only so that we can control and indicate we will stop issuing funds after October for that year. That was the only thing that was in there for. That wasn't to try to tie their fiscal year to our fiscal year, or say you have to be done. It was just, it's just so that we can say, sorry, you missed the cutoff, or we're already done for this year. We'll hit you, we'll see you again next quarter, whatever.
And the EDC fund is quite a bit different than the general fund where we're not really spending on credit with the EDC fund. We're spending based on actual cash. So if we have $200,000 budgeted for grants, they only spend $100,000 in that fiscal year. The cash will carry over. So there's not a concern, as big of a concern on that
I think the
side.
concern, John, is that, let's say I get approved, I start doing my funding, I bring you some receipts, with say 10,000 of the 20, then I go bankrupt. Do we have a catalyst to get that 10 grand back? Because we're already earmarking it. Is there like a timetable? Can we say 6 months to a year? You
Yeah,
didn't spend it, bring
We
it back.
currently don't, but I believe that's in the document.
Okay. I think that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, so 12 months and a day later, John could say, okay, you were approved for 25,000, you only spent five. You only submitted reimbursements for 5,000. We're clawing back the other 20,000 at this point. And then if you didn't finish the project, that's a different story. But I think what I'm hearing is we just want to leave this one alone. So A8 can stay as is. They don't start work, or, I guess we rewrite it, so you will only be reimbursed for expenses incurred after the approval date of your grant. Say it that way instead. You did, you planted the. Okay, so we're going to strike K and replace it with the wording of the business will only be reimbursed for expenses incurred after the grant approval date. Business will only be reimbursed for expenses incurred after the grant approval date. Motion. All right, moving on. Number 9, A9. I'd rather not get into the what ifs of COVID. I think we kind of covered that in the first A2 in terms of we can adjust this program at any time. Then we try to account for every other scenario in the world. We'll we'll have 10 more pages on this. Any objections to ignoring that?
Next one might be COVID 30.
A10,
Well,
agreed.
I have a question about this, A9, okay, when it says, after the funding of the grant, the applicant shall be considered in default of its obligations under the grant and shall be required to reimburse. I guess that's within a certain period of time, right? That's,
Right, so what they're
within
saying is,
12
well,
months,
yeah, during
within
COVID,
12
everything got delayed, or
Yeah,
quarantines.
because I know, that coffee shop, they've been having problems getting the, health department over there. So they're like 3 months behind. So how do we handle that situation as far as A9 is concerned?
Well, that would be a modification, right? Even a modification of the date. So that's a great example. I think what's either up to the 12th month, the health department's still not coming to approve. That would be a modification to come back for an extension of those, that timetable. Or am I wrong in that assumption?
No, I think that's a legit modification.
I was gonna say, wouldn't that fall under section 1? We could adjust as we see fit,
Yeah.
and that would be part of it.
Yeah, I think, and we may need to make adjustments as we go on. My concern with, in this particular scenario with the coffee shop, and granted, they wouldn't be, I don't think this would apply to them because they've already been approved. But if you get into, like, Parkinson's law, a task will take however much time is allocated to it. So if they think they'll have 5 months or 6 months to get the health inspector, not saying that they intended for that, but if there's no time constraint, it'll just drag on, drag on, drag on. And then Director Horton's office having to look at the receipts from
Is it
previous.
something that the city of Kennedale can do to help them out with the health department, as Tarrant County Health Department, to get them over here? Because they're holding up business or whatever.
But hang on, in that case, though, even in that situation, that wouldn't apply to them, though, because why would that, they were buying equipment with EDC funds. How does that, they could still be submitting for
No,
reimbursement
I'm just saying,
now.
in that, I was using them as an example
Okay.
of A9. It's not that they're the case. I'm just saying in that case where they're being delayed, and we're talking about a 12-month period. Now they're.
I would just say we'd be careful about discovering the reasons behind delays and not just, oh, well, the health department hasn't been out here. Well, maybe there's reason they haven't been out there. Like that's just, it gets really, really slippery when we start looking to make exceptions for everybody who's on a delay.
What our city attorneys, what we're talking about is two different things. So our city attorney is talking about something that is, in a sense, COVID.
Okay.
Do we want to modify that? Not if the health department's holding up the business. That's something totally different from COVID. COVID interfered with the world. So that's his comment. It's not about the health department coming in, that type of event. He's talking about major events that disrupts business as a
Natural
whole.
disasters, tornadoes in this
Yeah.
area.
That's what he's referring to.
So even in that case, we would have to be aware and do something where we shouldn't have to do that. I think this goes back to if we lay down a timetable, let's say 12 months, and you need that modified for 13 months, you come back and ask for that extra month.
I agree.
All the facts.
And that covers COVID, it covers tornadoes, it covers anything,
Right,
any dynamic.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think on the key thing with the coffee shop is the business or applicant fails to remain open. They haven't even opened. So, I mean, that covers that.
I believe that was one of your concerns last time too. You wanted them to be open, or was that David? They wanted them to be open for a year or something. Yeah, established business, I think is what we defined it as.
12 months, yeah. But I mean, they haven't opened.
And you can imagine how much a grant would help them right now, yeah.
Is that clear, Mr. Glover?
Did we confuse you enough?
We're just leaving, we're not changing A9.
I don't think we need a clause for extreme cases like COVID or tornadoes, because as long as we lay down a timetable, they can still modify that with our permission. That's
Even-
my stance on it.
Right, but so every example listed so far would not preclude them for submitting for reimbursement. The coffee shop could submit today for all the equipment they bought. They're just waiting. We're not, again, this is most of our capital improvements, so, okay, A9, leaving alone. A10, we know it's difficult, we talked about that, we just wanted it in there anyway, just so we have cover. Basically, if you fault, we'll,
We have the capability of pursuing.
yes, you're at least aware of it.
So, I'm sorry, explain that to me. We grant them, we give them money, and they go after our money back? I'm a little confused about this.
Let me see here. I thought this was that they, let's see. No, so this is if they close. So if they sell or close within 12 months of receiving the grant, they will be considered in default of his obligations under the grant and shall be required to reimburse the money.
Okay, I think I understand the spirit of that.
And there's the attorney saying hard to get blood out of a turnip if they're closed.
And in the end, that would be up to us if we wanted to pursue that.
Right, but at least we have the paragraph saying it's a possibility.
Do we have anything in there that if they do go default, they can't reapply for a grant for 10 years? So that they don't,
I don't think so, but I think that's going to be up to the board to filter that out. Again, trying to account for every scenario will be here
can't get,
all night.
not gonna get nothing out of somebody going bankruptcy, but if they close for no reason, it's a different matter.
Well, if they close and they bought capital assets, at least, I mean, and technically we would own that. I mean, we would have a stake in that asset. We'd probably order a new pizza oven or something like that. If we wanted to go after something like that. So,
I mean, I think I know where Mike's talking about too. Let's take the previous pizza place that we had. They closed here, but they reopened somewhere else. What if we give them money the month before? Is that where you're?
then they're still in default. They've moved.
Okay.
Yeah, and we asked them at one point, like, is it a portable? Like, can it be moved? And, you know, it was questionable. Obviously, it has to be delivered. But if it's an appliance that's kind of hardwired and bolted down, like, it's not easily going somewhere.
Installed in a rental property, it normally becomes part of the rental property unless you got a previous agreement with your landlord.
With the
So
triple,
then they get in trouble with him.
potentially, triple nets are different, but I think we're saying we're going to leave A10 alone. We'll just, aware, noted, thanks. And then, let's see. A11, I still want to keep this in there. I know we just got done talking about it. Because I feel like if we don't leave it in there, someone's going to show up wanting money up front to pay for it.
You think instead of just they fix half of it and come in for more money so they can do more?
Yeah, we would be fine. We would be financing it ahead of time.
Don't they have to show receipts anyways? I think what he's saying on A11 is a redundant paragraph, because we're requiring receipts to be reimbursed. It might be a better clarified paragraph than previous
I
paragraph.
mean, actually, A11 is not even, what the comment doesn't really reflect what's in paragraph N.
Yeah. I think what they're saying is it's kind of redundant. Which we can still keep in, redundancy is fine, but.
Because they're striking how, basically, if they go into default, when we expect to be reimbursed, is what they're trying to take out in A11 now. I'll leave it to the board here. What do you want to do on A11? Or paragraph N, do we leave it or do we strike it?
I say leave it. The attorney's got a solid point, but I like the language of it.
Yeah, it's redundant, but it's more clarifying, so I have no problem
I
leaving
think
it
it
in.
identifies it better.
Okay. So for A11, we want to keep this paragraph. We want to keep paragraph in. So the last one's a comment around this, if they're found in violation under 8 USC section 1324A F, then they would be in default and have to repay the loan. I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, what is 8 USC section 134A?
I believe this is if they are convicted of using undocumented workers.
Oh, okay. Then I agree with attorneys that should be, if we have concerns with that, we should be verifying that beforehand. But I really can't see where that would come up if this grants for improvement of business.
It's happened.
I don't doubt that one bit. Again, that's far reaching to police that is, I guess, my concern. Yeah, I agree with you, yeah. Do we send in the feds and see if everybody's got a green card? And then we're like, okay, your grant's approved, you're clean.
All right,
And this might be more of a mechanism that if a business does get in trouble, so not to say we have to police them, but if the feds are in the area for whatever reason and they go visit the business, this would give us some teeth in that situation.
Yeah, because we have a lot of dairy farms around here for that, yeah, right. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that as well, for sure. And that would definitely be on the news around here, at least my news.
I mean, I think it's kind of covered under the upper language already, without getting into the specific section of the law is probably what they're saying, is they don't have to get research that. So, all right, so strike that, and just leave the upper part of the paragraph is now the new N, but really the old O. Okay.
David, I just want to say I appreciate you spearheading this. I think we were all kind of shocked, with some of the applications this year. And as a councilman, I got several phone calls over several of them. So I appreciate you, recognizing that there was an issue and spearheading this and bringing it before the board.
My pleasure. And where did we land on the for-profit, nonprofit language?
I think we can do a separate grant for nonprofit. I think that was your idea last time. I think that's a brilliant idea. Let's just take nonprofits out of this situation. This is established businesses. And I think we've said that in the language throughout this whole thing, business or landowners. And then let's talk about come January about doing a separate grant for nonprofits.
Right. So, but it was a comment. So section 3, paragraph C is where we cover it. A business is defined as now the attorney struck through it. A business is defined as an occupation, as an organization that provides the purchase or sale of goods or services in an attempt to make a profit. So I think we leave that in there. Okay.
Yeah, and then again, let's come back January and talk about smaller grants for nonprofits.
Sure.
Or events, or both in one kind of sitting.
Would we want to discuss that with the attorney to see if an economic development corporation could provide that funding, if there's an issue with doing that at all?
I completely agree, John.
Could you send me the soft copy that we have from the attorney? Because they've struck through different lines, and I'll take their notes, combine with our notes, and create a version 4, and hopefully this will be the final version of this.
No.
I will always second that.
I can't.
All right.
Move that to the screen, or do
We got it all took care of?
hang on, wait. So in version 2, we had a different paragraph,
It's the very beginning.
and it was around, so version 2, opening section 1, it says, EDC staff will review all documents submitted with the application to determine completeness prior to presenting to the board of directors, who will render an approval or denial for each application. No application will be moved to the agenda for review by the board of directors until deemed complete by the EDC staff. The grant will be open for funding biannually. Applications will be accepted from October 1st through November 30th with an anticipation of funding to be awarded during the January Board of Directors meeting and from March 1st to April 30th with anticipation of funding to be awarded during the June Board of Directors meeting. So this got, somewhere in the edits that got removed from section 1. I think it's good. I think it's why we were also confused around some of the dates. So we want to put this back in, right? Thank you.
Can we give it a little longer than 30 days for application process?
Give 60 days,
Okay, 60.
October 1st through November 30th, and then March 1st through April 30th.
In that same section, can we put in there that it's required to be a
Business within the city limits?
Kennedale Chamber of Commerce member?
Ooh. He's on fire tonight.
Just a suggestion.
Why not? It's not that much to join the chamber.
And that way we can move forward with the city and make things prosperous and better.
I mean, I don't have any argument against that.
So can
They
we
can show receipts, right? And we can reimburse them the.
Absolutely. It can be part of the grant.
move forward?
Actually, no, because they would have incurred that cost prior to grant being approved.
John's keeping us honest.
Are we looking for a motion to move forward with the changes that we made tonight, or are we?
Yes, we do. And obviously, we'll have to bring it back next month for all the modifications. But I am serious about the chamber being part of the deal.
Do you want to run that by the chamber first?
But
so
that-
you get their input?
I already have. They would love for him to be a member of the chamber. Now, obviously, I'm open for it, but
I would love to put it,
he is giving money to a local business, and I truly would believe that they need to be a chamber member.
But you can't have-
said it right there, the EDC is giving money, not the chamber.
That's correct.
So I think to be in any, that's a relationship, right, between that business and the chamber. If that business doesn't want to be in the chamber,
I think what he's trying to say is it shows on their part investment into the community.
I don't, and I completely get the point. I'm just thinking, you can lead a horse to water.
I say let's put it in there and we can
That's-
debate it on the final draft.
No, I don't want to debate this again.
No, it's a suggestion, and obviously that's the reason why I'm bringing it up. If you do not believe it needs to be part of it, I'm okay with that.
So I think we're saying is under section 3 eligibility.
After your grant is approved, then you have to join the EDC,
No,
because you can't do it before.
You mean chamber?
Or the chamber, yeah.
So grant recipients must also be members of the chamber, the Kennedale Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, we're not gonna use grant money for that cost.
At any level, by the way.
Correct.
Well, can't be, it's a non-reimbursable cost.
Yes.
Must be or become members of,
Excuse me, at any membership level.
I'm just saying, members of Kennedale EDC, of Kennedale Chamber of Commerce.
So they need to get an introductory membership level.
I mean, it's a good idea. Again, it limits what will become before us as well. It weeds out the weak, basically.
Okay, I will add that under section 3. Grant recipients must be or become members of the Kennedale Chamber of Commerce. And it's a non-reimbursable expense.
Just to be clear too, like if somebody joins in October, they don't get charged the full amount. They get it actually automatically, prorates it. So
Thank you.
All right.
Great job, David. Thank you.
I make a motion.
To dismiss.
I make a motion to dismiss.
No. We need a motion to approve that,
We do?
right? Yes.
I thought we were going to bring it back after.
Table
signature.
till further. Right.
So you don't want a motion tonight to move forward with the modifications?
Needs to be tabled. I make a motion that we table it until after the modification has been made.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Now we're good.
Motion to adjourn.
A second. I beat you. I was. Don't give it to Terry, yeah. Don't give it to Miss Cherry.